Hello, and welcome to Building Healthy Partnerships, Lessons Learned among Native Connections Grantees. My name is B.C. Eckelhawk, and I'm a Communications Coordinator with the Native Connections TTA Center. On behalf of the Native Connections team and Contracting Officer Representatives, Maureen Madison and Jan Dunbar Cooper, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. In a few moments, we'll start our presentation, but first I'd like to review a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar is being recorded and a replay will be available in the near future. Because we are recording, all phone lines will be muted to minimize outside noise, but please don't hesitate to use the chat box for questions throughout the session. Today's PowerPoint is available for download on the lower right side of the screen. Just click on the file and a download file button will appear at the bottom of the box. Clicking that button will start the download. Facilitating today's session will be our colleagues Sarah Pearson and Dave Braveheart. But first, opening us up today in a good way is Chanel Ford. Chanel?
Good morning, Native Connections grantees. I hope you are all doing well. I'm Chanel Ford. I'm a grantee technical assistant for Native Connections, and I wanted to offer a poem about pushing forward in life to open up today's webinar. This poem is called Climb Till Your Dreams Come True, and it's by Helen Steiner Rice. So I will go ahead and get going here. Often your tasks will be many and more than you think you can do. Often the road will be rugged and the hills insurmountable too. But always remember the hills ahead are never as steep as they seem, and with faith in your heart start upward and climb till you reach your dream. For nothing in life that is worthy is ever too hard to achieve if you have the courage to try it and you have the faith to believe. For faith is a force that is greater than knowledge or power or skill, and many defeats turn to triumph in your trust in Creator's wisdom and will. For faith is a mover of mountains. There's nothing that Creator cannot do. So start out today with faith in your heart and climb till your dreams come true. So with that being said, I wish you all a great Tuesday, and I hope that you enjoy this webinar. I am going to pass it on over to Sarah Pearson. Thank you.
Thanks, Chanel. It's so glad. I'm wonderfully grateful to be here today with you talking about healthy partnerships, which are central to a Native Connections program. I support the GTAs in all kinds of projects, and I'm going to turn it over to Dave Braveheart.
Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and we are pleased that you could join us today. This is Dave Braveheart. I'm a grantee technical assistant for the Native Connections grant, and I'll turn it over to our panelists. We have three panelists that are joining us from our Native Connections community. I'll turn it over to you, Sandra.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. My name is Sandra Molina Aguilar, and I'm a parent peer support specialist at the Sacramento Native American Health Center. We call it SNAC for short. I'm a member of the Cherokee Nation of the Long Hair Clan, and I'm Apache and Mexican. And I'm happy to be here today on the webinar. Thank you for asking.
Judy?
All right. Bonjour, Judy Simpson, Indigenica, Swedish Indudame, Pelican Rapids, Minnesota, and Dujaba, Whiters Mental Health in Danoki. I'm the Mobile Mental Health Crisis Coordinator and Mental Health Therapist for Whiters Mental Health, part of the Cohort 2 of Native Connections Project.
Thank you, Judy. And Michael?
Hi, thanks. This is Mike Haskins with Citizen Potawatomi Nation, and we're located in central Oklahoma, and I'm the Native Connections Project Director.
Thank you, Michael. So once again, welcome. And just to give you the objectives that we have to hope to achieve in this webinar here. So we want to provide ideas to navigate the healthy partnership process, provide a platform for sharing examples of successful partnerships, and challenge your views on partnerships, and listen to some of the stories that we hear from our panelists on partnerships, and to introduce a partnership or resource, partly mainly the partnership analysis tool that we'll be talking about later on in this webinar. But to get us started, we're going to have our first polling question because we want to hear from you regarding what characteristics do you think make up a successful partnership. So there's a poll question right here in front of us. If you could provide some of your responses to the characteristics that make up a good a successful partnership. And as you are submitting your responses, as we know, partnerships and collaboration are often required or we're encouraged by a grant. It aims to expand the resources necessary to accomplish grant goals and sustainability. Although there are the benefits to collaborating, there are also challenges. Successful collaboration takes skills, time, and patience. So it looks like folks are really landing on mutual respect and trust, and then good communications, mutual goals, yes, and mutual respect and trust. That's so critical, isn't it? Developing that trust over time as you begin to partner with the agency or organization in your community, and agreeing on some mutual goals for that benefit both of you, and always keeping in mind good communications.
Dave, I think they really landed on some good things, the communication and the mutual respect. I love that, and trust.
Yes. All right. I was thinking about another thing. Maybe Michael, can you talk about MOUs even?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I was just looking at the poll just now, and the MOU actually ties into that really well. I thought it was interesting that a lot of folks marked good communication, mutual respect as the primary characteristics. That's been my experience as well whenever I'm partnering with anyone in our community. I know we like to think about the MOUs or MOAs, and then we write them into our treatment plans or our plans go moving forward. But I think some folks can get kind of scared away from those. It's been my experience, and I think it's because when I'm speaking with potential partners in our community, if I start mentioning some sort of paperwork that I'm asking them to sign, they may see that as a high-level commitment, which is listed on your poll. And it can be intimidating to people at first. And so my experience has been if I can partner with them with MOA or with MOU or without it, then I just try to do that. And then as we're able to partner more, our trust level builds, and they're more likely to get on board with signing something and have a higher level of commitment. So I try not to get discouraged whenever I'm reaching out to our community. I got a funny example. I tried for several months to meet with some of our school officials at one of our local schools. They were really polite, but I could pick up on their reluctance. We ended up meeting, sorry, I'm a little bit hoarse. I think there's something going around. We ended up meeting over this summer, though. We finally had to sit down. They agreed to it. It was the administrators for one of our larger schools. They listened to what we had to offer, which were just some free services to provide support and counseling and psychology. And so I could tell, again, they were very polite, but they seemed not all that interested. They just weren't ready to commit. They have had, unfortunately, some tragedies throughout the school year. They had some last year as well, and that's why we'd offered our services. But that has continued this year. And I've heard from some of their staff since then, and they're asking for us to help now. So it's good that we build a bridge, and, it may come back to be a benefit later. And so they knew who to contact when some more problems arose, and now they're in a situation where I think that we're going to be able to partner more moving forward. So that's been my experience with it. David?
Yeah, Michael, that's great. I think that I've heard that as well from other grantees that I've worked with who did have to keep knocking on that door, being persistent but not being an antagonist, and then just offer, leave enough information for them to get in touch with you when they're ready to really make maybe a step to a deeper commitment. So a great example. Thank you for that.
Sure.
All right. So let's talk about a healthy approach to partnering. Increasingly, programs and the grants that support our communities are embracing partnerships as a way to support better health outcomes and addressing the growing costs of providing services. A partnership is a relationship between individuals, organizations, or groups that is characterized by mutual cooperation towards the achievement of a specified goal. Partnerships may take many forms. Some of them are formal or even informal. The point is to be able to have begin that partnering conversation. Taking a healthy approach to partnering is really a foundation to the first step. When you engage in partnerships, we're making room for a new way of operating, a mutually beneficial and respectful culture, if you will, of collaboration. A supportive partnership will help all involved to weather the storms of change, and that may come during the implementation of a particular program. And for those new to partnerships, it will likely challenge the way you have operated in the past. But sometimes it's hard to try to work and reach out to other folks, and reaching out to other folks can present some challenges. True partnering will push us and our partners out of our comfort zone and into new territory, maybe even thinking outside the box. With a group of partners supporting us, we can respond to crisis as a collective group. We don't have to do it by ourselves. Doing it with other folks and partners is really probably a more healthy way that can lead to growth and a new level of working together, a new level of collaboration. So this approach begins by considering your partner's perspective. It may be tempting to jump into a collaboration before taking the time to understand a partner's situation, motivations, culture, priorities, vision, or even goals. We may not know the specific goals of their grants, their organizational structure, and very likely they don't know the Native Connections staff, goals, or organizational culture. Taking a proactive role in getting to know a potential partner and helping them understand us will help strengthen alignment of purpose and avoid misunderstanding and conflict. So consider questions before selecting a partner. Do you know what their vision statement is, and is it in harmony? Does it align with your Native Connections program vision? Do you know their relevant goals? Do you know they support or would be supported by collaboration with Native Connections? How can you tell that the culture of the organization will match with the Native Connections program? And what can you find out about their reputation and reach within the community? Do they fill in gaps that will help? Will they connect you to untapped resources within the prevention or health fields? Do they have helpful connections to government departments or regional organizations that may be able to help? And what's in it for you and what's in it for them? Do you both agree with the purpose for the partnerships? And how do you assess their added value to your project? So as you can see, it's important to ask a lot of questions and to find the answers that will guide our partnerships down a healthy path. So to keep the conversation going about for healthy partnerships, let's turn to Sarah, who will take us through another polling question. So Sarah?
Thanks, Dave. Let me see if I can even advance the slide here. Oh, wow. We're at another polling question, guys, so get ready. And we have two questions. I think Mark is going to pull those two questions up for people to vote on. Should partnerships last indefinitely? Yes or no? And should partnerships be formal and share a strategy or plan? Yes or no? Let's see what people have to say. Here's the first polling question. Should partnerships be formal and share a strategy or plan? Wow. People are saying definitely yes. Partnerships should be formal and share a strategy or plan. That's great. And should partnerships last indefinitely? No, 100%. Wow. Okay. Well, you know, I was thinking earlier as I've looked at partnerships, it does depend on the partnership. And what makes it a healthy partnership is that the partners are communicating and respecting each other's time and effort, like Michael had described earlier. If this is in good balance, then partners may come together to implement a short-term goal, such as a shared event maybe once a year, or a long-term goal where they have a partnership that lasts over several months or a year. And it's mostly, we found that formal partners will usually sign an MOU or an MOA, as Michael had mentioned earlier, and have regular standing meetings to address both mutual goals and vision statement and even some expected outcomes. But you can have an informal partnership where you just work on a single one-time event annually. It just depends. Thanks, Mark. Well, as you can imagine, there are many benefits to engaging partners in your program. For example, it helps generate evidence of your program's advocacy. It gets the voice, strengthens your voice and gets that awareness out about your program, brings new perspectives, things that maybe you hadn't thought about before. They can connect you to other people and other programs and other events. It extends your reach into the community and maybe even into some leadership, or you might extend their reach into leadership. Helps fill gaps in your services that you're offering, and it increases your access and influence to decision makers. And these are all really important things, great benefits. I thought I'd open the floor to the panelists if they'd like to share their thoughts on any of the benefits that you've shared, that you've enjoyed with partnership. Either Michael, Judy, or Sandra. I know, Judy, you had talked about capacity building at one point, and Sandra, you talked about strengthening voice or filling in service gaps.
Yeah, this is Sandra from SNAC. I believe there's always benefits from any kind of partnerships, whether they're formal, informal, or one time with common goals. Here at SNAC, we have all different kind of partnerships. We do have some formal, like MOAs and MOUs, but we also have informal partnerships. One of our greatest partnerships started as a one-time event, and then it's kind of blossomed into something that's become annual. And we partnered with our Sacramento Republic football club. It's a professional soccer team here for mental health May, Mental Health Awareness Month, and so they help support our kiddos with a soccer clinic, as well as we partner with them to do their Native American awareness soccer game. So they have a whole game that's centered around Native people. And the way the partnership works there is that we bring other people, Native organizations to the table to help to support this event. We also bring Native folks out and bring them to the game. So we create a good opportunity for people to access the game. So that's one of our partnerships that have lasted for a pretty long time, and now it's becoming an annual event. So we are doing this event annually with them. So it's kind of bridged into a larger partnership.
Thank you. Judy or Michael?
Hello, this is Judy with White Earth Mental Health. I can think of several different examples that we have here for capacity building in our partnerships. One specifically is we have a pretty strong partnership with the state of Minnesota, along with our surrounding counties within the border of the White Earth Reservation. And because of these partnerships that we have, it's really allowed us to expand our coverage area.
Uh-oh, I think we lost Judy. Are you there, Judy?
I am. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Let's see. Hopefully you heard where I probably cut out was talking about our ability to expand our coverage for our mobile mental health crisis program. Because of our partnerships with the state and with the county, we're able to provide coverage to a large area along with a 24-hour coverage. The other capacity building that's really growing, I think, in a variety of areas, we have, again, a really strong partnership with the state of Minnesota that has implemented a zero suicide model. And through this model, we've been able to create sub-teams throughout White Earth Reservation with partnering with many of the health care programs and organizations, which include IHS, medical side, dental, home health programs, and the early childhood development program as well. And through these partnerships, we've been able to implement certain screening tools that we use in mental health to help identify people who are having thoughts of suicide or have recently had thoughts of suicide. And so through that process, we've really been able to connect with individuals who may have been slipping through the cracks, would not actively seek out mental health services, but because we're screening in all these areas, because of the partnerships that we have, we're really getting a lot of different individuals who are, we're identifying that they've, are at risk of suicide or having thoughts of suicide, and then they're making that connection with our mental health crisis program to help connect and to assess that situation. And through those partnerships has now also led to our home health department working and being trained in many of our suicide prevention workshops. So we do have a couple of home health nurses who are trained in the Living Works Assist model, and they provide workshops as well on the reservation. So it's been helpful because it alleviates, of course, the pressure for our staff in mental health to be trained, to utilize our time. So now we've got other partnerships and other programs that can help fill in those gaps and that can help build more trainer capacity and allow for some flexibility in offering trainings more frequently and in a variety of settings as well. So we've been very fortunate with our partnerships at White Earth and really grateful for those because they've really expanded our ability to reach really our goals and objectives that we have through our project. So.
Oh, thank you, Judy. Lots of good things, good benefits. And I'm thinking maybe some of those benefits have been also, as Dave mentioned, cost-effective perhaps. And please feel free to come back around and share anything about being cost-effective. That would be wonderful to hear. And Michael, did you have anything to share?
No, not really. I mean, I would say that I have to agree with everything they just said. You just kind of, when you're starting out, especially, you just have to kind of meet people where they're at with any sort of arrangement. And once the trust develops, it will grow over time, and eventually people will actually start calling on you. Um,
Wonderful.
This is
Oh, go
Sandra from
ahead.
SNAC. Sorry, I think that those are those opportunities for looking at cost effectiveness. We recently partnered with our county. They were doing some surveys to find out what the behavioral health, our behavioral health department needed to know what do Native people need. And so we did partner with them in order to create a meeting for them, for our Native community to come to the table to share their experience with the county. And in that partnership, they were like, you know, what can we do to help? And I'm like, as many of us know, that providing food with is really important in our communities. However, with some of our grants, that's not really possible. So we were able to partner to be able to bring voice for Native people, and they were able to provide food and refreshments for our families. So it was a great partnership in order to elevate the Native voice and have those needs heard.
Excellent. That's really helpful. And if you think of other things along the slide deck path, please feel free to interject. And, you know, I think when there's benefits, there are also challenges. Different culture that you might be working with, a partner that has a little bit of a different culture to how they do business. Maybe political tensions might be rising between partners. Maybe competing agendas that weren't initially there when you met them. There are challenges to consider as well as benefits. I think, Judy, when we talked earlier, I think you mentioned that it does take some energy to manage or maintain those partnerships. And Sandra, you mentioned that there might be a readiness level of a partner that might be a possible challenge. Could I hear from either one of you, and Michael too, on your experiences with any of these challenges that we have on the slide, or something else?
Hello, this is Judy. Yeah, absolutely. There's that come. Time, energy, I think, is a big one. Especially on our end, we have many partners, and sometimes it's overwhelming to try and maintain partnerships with meetings, phone calls. It just gets to be a lot of additional time, yet those partnerships, you know, as noted before, have a lot of benefits to maintaining them, as they open usually a lot of doors for opportunities to work together and share each other's projects together. One thing, I guess, that I've tried to work into our time conflicts that we often run into in our department, of course, trying to utilize other staff to attend, you know, some meetings as we can, and disperse people in a more appropriate and effective way. And really, I think with the use of technology, I think that really helps a lot with our time management. You know, being able to have conference calls, or all the different computer programs now where we can, you know, log on to be able to see each other face to face on the screen instead of actually having to take the time to travel. And as we live in a very rural area in Minnesota, there's oftentimes I could easily travel, you know, an hour and a half to attend a meeting, which can take up a large portion of the day. So when we can utilize some of the technology advances that we have now, I think that really helps to meet some of those challenges in time and energy so that we can effectively maintain those relationships.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
This is Sandra from SNAC, and I mirror exactly what Judy says. I think those are always, that is definitely the challenge, is to be able to be in the community, in the meetings, to really know what the partners are, what their funding sources are coming, what's going on, what things are ending or sunsetting, and how to connect each other, or how can we partner. I'm always looking for opportunities to, if it's not a good partnership for us, but maybe I might know of another partner that may be working on similar work. But yeah, and I also think that challenges within a project can be if a trusted staff is the one that has been building those partnerships or maintaining those partnerships, how to continue them if staff move or leave, on both sides, either the one that we have a partner with or within our own agency. And sometimes some of the challenges, too, are how to network within our own programs. So we have a couple of different Native-specific grants, and how do we work together to get some of those objectives done in collaboration, even though we work in the same agency. However, we're working with all the same community, right? Because here in Sacramento, we're all one Native community. So that has kind of been a challenge for us, is how to work organizationally together and talk and sit at the same table as we're doing programming or reaching for those objectives. That does become a challenge, is how many meetings to sit in and who's doing what and all of that coordination. It does take a lot of work to be able to do that, but definitely lots of benefits from facing those challenges.
The care and feeding of partnerships, it's really important, but it does take time. I can see that. Michael, did you have anything to share?
Not so much. I would say, as far as my grant and my activities have gone, some of the most important partnerships I've had, and I know every tribe is different, but the most important partnerships I have, especially to get going, were actually within Citizen Potawatomi Nation, because once I realized the resources that I have in place, the different people to call on that maybe were connected in certain areas of the community that I wasn't, it sure made a lot of things easier for me. So just recognizing the resources within my own tribe was very helpful.
You know, I'm going to throw in a quick question. Have you ever had a partnership that you found that you really needed to end? And if you did, how did you end it gracefully? Not that lucky, huh? It's always good to have partners. That's an interesting thing I was thinking as you were talking, Michael. Well, it's like partnerships are like a relationship. And, oh, I'm sorry, Judy? No? Okay. But partnerships are like a relationship and like dating in a way. So we want to think about ways to strengthen partnerships that you do have. And we've got a couple of suggestions, or a few suggestions for you to consider ways to offer support to a partner to strengthen your relationship. And one of the things is that you hope to find some space and time to simply listen to your partner talk about their program or their operation. Share what you know about the mutual population you both serve, focusing on the effects of historical trauma or something like lateral violence or another topic. Ask for time to discuss what you both know about being trauma-informed. For example, do you adhere to trauma-informed principles? Does your partner even know what these are? Describe and discuss your level of commitment to the partnership, and if possible, establish a standing meeting with oversight of that partnership and use the time to think about if you're becoming more formal as a partner, do you need an MOA or an MOU? What other joint projects can you get into or pull other partners into? Are there supportive policies that could enhance the services that you're both offering, such as policy might be that including staff from a partnering organization to be included in an important planning committee or strategic planning call that you have. But all of these suggestions are just designed to foster a trusting relationship that Michael mentioned earlier. I'd like to open the floor again to our panelists to share any thoughts on ways to strengthen a partnership, any tips that you have for our participants.
This is Sandra from SNAC. So I think that transparency and really knowing your project and what you have to offer any kind of partnership is valid and really important. And knowing what they can offer, and it strengthens those partnerships of how can we work together. I can offer this, you can offer that, what goal we're reaching to achieve together. And I think really that time and honesty and commitment to being transparent and really knowing what you're able to offer and what resources you bring to the table anytime you sit down with another partner. I think that those abilities to do that is the greatest way to strengthen a partnership.
Thank you for that. Anyone else?
Hello, this is Judy. To me, it's really short and simple. Food. Food really does connect people. And
it really does, doesn't it?
It does. And, I say that jokingly, but yet seriously as well, because I've had several instances where just as bringing food and connecting with people and showing your appreciation for their service and things that they do. My example, I guess, is through one of the emergency rooms that we have on the reservation. We're kind of struggling in our relationship with that emergency room to utilize our mental health crisis program when an individual was brought to the emergency room for any mental health needs or suicidal ideation or attempt. And really what we started to do was we brought treats. And eventually we started getting more phone calls. And after we, maybe spent several different calls with this emergency room and acknowledged how challenging the calls were, the days were, the demands, continual then the next day, bringing a note, bringing in a card, and just some food of a quick appreciation of thank you for what you're doing. And through those kind of nice gestures, it really did strengthen our relationship and our partnership where we really did gain great trust and respect from the providers that were working there and were willing to utilize us more often because of really the initial of food and cards. So I really think that it can be powerful, and when we think about, when I think about Native American culture, food is a big deal. This is what brings people together. You feed people when you get together. And so it helps me to be mindful of even each organization has its own culture, and to be, maybe aware and alert to that organization's culture, and how can you approach them in culturally appropriate ways that can be effective in strengthening partnerships.
Boy, food and gratitude goes a long way. That's the message I got from that. Thank you so much. Michael?
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything really to add to that. Those are really good points. I think you had said actually earlier that it's a relationship like any other relationship, and trust. And it's funny how most relationships revolve around trust and food, it seems like. So I thought those were all good points. I don't have anything additional to add, though.
Thank you so much. Well, feel free to jump in at any time, Michael.
Thank you.
So we're getting ready to shift to another part of our webinar, and I want to put the participants on notice that we're going to open the floor to you for your questions and your comments and suggestions. But before we do that, here are some more tips for strengthening partnerships. Consider writing these into your strategic action plan and get credit for the work that you are doing. For example, you may want to, if you don't already have one, include a goal or objective to grow and maintain partnerships. Include an outcome for partnerships. What do you expect to happen from the partnerships that you're reaching out for or that you hope to grow? Connect your efforts to develop and grow partnerships to the community system analysis tool you're already using. And ask yourself, will you need to develop a memorandum of agreement or understanding for some of your partnerships? If you do, consider writing this work into your strategic action plan. For the next section on our webinar, I'm going to turn this back over to my partner, Dave Braveheart. Dave?
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Sandra and Judy and Michael, for a lot of your comments and sharing here. So I guess, at this point, we wanted to perhaps turn to you, to the panel. Is there any other stories you'd like to share on partnerships, and whether it's success or a challenge, I was thinking of a question I might have asked before, and I've seen this in some of the grantees that I work with, and I've seen staff turnover has affected partnerships. Or maybe even the changes in tribal leadership can impact a partnership. I just wondered if any of you might have a story that related to that.
This is Sandra from Sacramento. Sorry, Michael, were you going to talk?
No, that was Dave. Go ahead.
Oh, Dave,
Sandra.
sorry. So yeah, I feel like all of those can be a challenge. We recently are having some turnover with our project directors. We had one move on, but I think that if I could share the thing that has been really strong for our project is that instead of kind of working siloed in our grant work, we work more as a community, as a team, and a department. So people are able to step in. So not one person is the sole holder of everything. So I mean, those are definitely challenges within a department. I think that for me, working, creating partnerships, maintaining partnerships within our community, we're in an urban setting, and so we need to work with our county systems and a lot of our other nonprofit system partners to accomplish the work. But I also think that really having a clear idea of how if it's not the right partnership for us, how can I connect you to somebody else? If a partner comes to me and says, hey, I'm looking for, some indigenous or native healers in order to connect this family with, that's not my department, but let me see who I can resource you to. And I think that being a good steward of partnership and of the work, or an ambassador of the work, is really important to navigate those challenges, because we don't always have all the answers, and it does take a whole community in order to make headway in the work. So I think that that's really important.
Thank you, Sandra. When I mentioned that, I'll share a story that I heard from a grantee that was pretty challenging. They had, how some communities have an agreement with another program and sharing the cost or the rental cost of the space that they're in. And then there was a change in the tribal leadership, and there was also a shortfall in the budget, and they were trying to figure out how they can adjust their budget so they can, do the things they need to do with their budget. And so they raised the cost of the rent through the Native Connections program. The original agreement was $14,000 a year, and that cost jumped all the way up to over $80,000 a year. So you can imagine the trepidation the program went into, and fortunately they were able to work things out and stay the course of the way things were. But those things can happen, and they are kind of a little scary. So just thought I'd mention that. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, our panel or our audience. And just a reminder, if there's any questions or comments you might have, please feel free to enter that into a chat box in the lower left-hand corner. We would love to hear from anyone that might have a question. Any other comments or stories from our panel? Okay, so I I know we had our panel shared a little bit about some of their challenges and benefits and best partnerships and maybe even some things to avoid as they try to navigate building successful partnerships without being too pushy and pushing for commitments, long-term commitments, but just trying to tread that relationship very gently. So any responses or comments from our audience? We have, okay, oops, we got some people are typing. We'd love to hear from you.
Dave,
I know that, yes.
I had a thought, Dave. You know, I often wonder, a memorandum of understanding or agreement can get almost like a marriage contract sometimes. I was wondering if anyone's ever had an extremely involved MOA or MOU that may have been a little uncomfortable or a little bit little stiff. I didn't know if anyone had any experience with that, and what do you do if you do?
We have a comment from Mackenzie. Really says, when would you use the analysis tool or checklist that you all have provided as resources under web links? So great question, Mackenzie. That is coming up here after our this section here. So great question. So we have some folks typing, and we have a question or a comment from Rachel. I am from one of the local communities that we serve, and it is important for me that partnerships last indefinitely because this is home to me. And that makes sense, building those bridges that can last a lifetime. And I think one of the things that we might have just briefly touched on, if we did, was the concept of sustainability. And I think building successful partnerships is real key to sustainability. Maybe that's what you're kind of referring to as well, Rachel, because sometimes when the funding ends for these grants, there are some things that we put in place that are really have some outstanding outcomes, successes in the community. You want to keep some of those activities, events, or agreements going so that it continues to benefit the youth in the community. So I agree with you, Rachel, so thanks for sharing that. Awesome. And she's responding.
This is Sandra from SNAC, and I also work within my community where I live, and I think that through the project that has been a tad of a challenge because even creating partnerships, we think about system partners, but there's also a lot of partnership that happens within the community with our Native leaders and our cultural gatekeepers, and bringing them to the table and assuring them that the work that they're going to offer or share is valuable. And so for me, that has also been a challenge because then I'm hold the point a lot about how is this going to work, or where is this money going, or how is this going to be sustainable, right? So for me, that has been a personal challenge, is how to navigate the work and my community and find that bridge. And I think oftentimes when we work in Indian country, especially within our own communities, being an ambassador of the work can be difficult because you're not quite sure how to navigate all of that. You have your work hat and what your grant deliverables are, and then you have your community hat and your home, and how does that look? So that can be a challenge in navigating this work. And I just attempt to be as transparent and be straightforward and honest all of the time and give all the information that I can in regards to deliverables, how long the money's going to last, what does it look like, and then looking within that community and other partners to maybe pick up the work when the grant money ends. So that is definitely a challenge.
Thank you for that, Sandra. That really does make a lot of sense. And being transparent with the community is real key, building that relationship and trust. One of the other thoughts I had about partnerships is, how do you partner with your youth in your community? Because, they sometimes use the word partnerships and maybe even stakeholders in the same sentence, but even our stakeholders are partners, and I think of youth in our community as being stakeholders and partners in this work. Any folks, anybody like to make a comment about that? Have something to share.
This
How
is
do you
Sandra
partner?
from Sacramento. Yeah, this is Sandra from Sacramento, and we're really lucky here at Sacramento that we have a great youth team. We have 2 youth peer support specialists and a youth manager who her entire work has been with youth from her own community from up north and down here, and that's the base of our entire work. So we're really lucky that they are constantly working with our youth advisory board to find out what do they need, what do they want, how do they want it to look. Some of the greatest revelations from our program and in our programming have come from the youth, and that has been a challenge as well as we shift that focus within our agency is that the youth are right. The youth know what they need and they want because it's their experience. Whereas me, who's been a youth a really long time ago, my experience is way different. And we're really lucky that I have a team that is the ambassadors of that, and we look to them to support that youth voice. Something as easy as youth are like, we also want to invite our non-Native friends to events. We want to have opportunities to culture share with them so they understand. So I don't have to be the one person that tells everybody what it's like to be a Native person in Sacramento. And so they're creating programming around that to be able to do culture sharing with non-Native kiddos because these are who our kiddos are hanging out with. And that was something that our team was like, didn't even think of. So empowering our youth that they know what's right for them, and then us as adults backing that up when we sit at different tables that they may not be sitting at. So for us here in Sacramento, I've been really lucky to have a team that is very boisterous in their advocacy to say that this is what the youth need, and we always go back to them. Hey, this is kind of what we came up with. Is this what it looks like to you guys? And they're like, no, boo, change that. So, or, oh, yeah, that's great. We can't. We're excited about it. So that's how we utilize that partnership with youth here is really focusing on empowering them that they are right and they know their story and how us as adults can support that growth. So that's how we do it here.
Yeah, I love how you talk about that, and giving the youth a voice, empowering them, so they have a buy-in. They feel like they're really part of making this happen, and it's about them. So, thank you for that. Shelley Madej commented, I reached out to one of our peer specialists that go to the local school to maybe partner or collaborate with. Yes, we don't talk too much about peer specialists, and I think your peer specialists are real critical and who are certified and who provide an important resource to our youth and our school system. So I think that's great, Shelley. That's the way to go on that, that's for sure. Lisa says, we have a youth council that advises us and volunteers with our events. Since we are county-based, one of our largest challenges is transporting them to each event and meetings. How does everyone else address this challenge? That's a great question. Anybody on our panel or even our audience, do you have a response to that? Transportation is quite a challenge for a lot of communities. So what do you recommend?
Hi, this is Mike with CPN. I will speak to it briefly. We had some experiences that in the past that were problematic for cis population, and so it's something that we try to be really careful to navigate. So what we do now is we won't offer transport through ourselves just for liability reasons. Um, we will reach out to other stakeholders and try to make arrangements if at all possible or if that's needed. But that's a really good question. And that's probably not the answer that they were hoping for, but that is something we had actually experienced previously, and we had to sort it out. So that's where we landed with it.
Michael, this is Sarah. With that kind of, you mentioned the liability, I would imagine that would be a perfect opportunity if you were going to partner with someone and take that risk. You'd definitely want an MOA or an MOU in that case if they were taking care of transportation.
No, for sure. That's a really good point too. What we do more is we will try to contact like family members. So that's what we try to be the go-between. But we have tried to. We don't offer transportation within ourselves anymore, but we will try to help however we can to arrange something. But yeah, having some sort of formal arrangement with an outside stakeholder, if it's not like a family member or somebody really close, really good suggestion, I believe.
So that is definitely here at Sacramento. This is Sandra from Sacramento. That is a challenge for us as well. Transportation is always difficult for us. It actually just came up in a recent survey that we did. Our community is having difficult time making it to classes or to any of our programming we're offering. So it's something that our upper management is working on presently, but we work in networking our community together if there's somebody that can help with rides. But I do know that we also provide transportation by renting vehicles for youth when we're traveling to events and stuff. So that's kind of how we've navigated it. We also sometimes are able to do bus passes for our county transportation system, but it is definitely a challenge that we still struggle to figure out ways around. So it is in an urban setting, it is difficult as well.
Thank you, Sandra and Michael. And I don't know if those are helpful suggestions there, Lisa. I do know of one community that actually purchased a large van for transporting youth, which is allowable cost for under this grant. But that's maybe consider an option or it's not an option. But just throwing that out there as well.
Dave, this is Judy from White Earth. A couple things, I guess, that we've done to help combat transportation, because I think that seems to be a universal issue for everyone. We've kind of done some networking, too, and partnered with other youth organizations on the reservation so that if there's an activity, we can kind of partner with them to either host the activity, utilize their transportation systems and services to help transport additional youth to those activities and events. And the other option to throw out too is I know recently the partner that I'm working with right now in creating our youth council, they were able to apply for a grant through the state of Minnesota that is specific for youth councils, and there is a transportation stipend. So at least there's to help with some of the costs. So if there was use of a vehicle or rental of a vehicle, that grant helps cover some of those transportation costs. So I guess I'm kind of always too of keep your eyes open for what your local county, state, programs have to offer and how you might be able to tap into some of those resources as well.
Thank you, Judy. That was great information. Also, somebody suggested the idea of carpooling using resources within maybe some older members who, because even sometimes older members are wanting something to do and be useful. So maybe there's some of those folks out there who can be carpooling. Great dialogue. Thank you so much, and great questions. So I think we're ready to move on. Sarah, so I want to turn it over to you to, is it okay to talk about partnerships analysis tool?
Absolutely. Excuse me, absolutely, Dave. Thank you so much. This was a great conversation. And I know we're kind of at the top of the hour. I promise this will go quick, but you'll see that there are some web links in the center of your page here, the Partnership Analysis Tool and the checklist. So these are available for you to download. The benefits are great, as you can tell, if you can make healthy partnerships an intentional strategy in your Native Connections work. And now that we've heard from fellow Native Connections grantees, I'd like to share a useful partnership analysis tool that has come all the way from down under in Australia. And it's available online, and you'll see the links there in the middle of the page. It's an additional resource for taking a deeper dive to establish, develop, and maintain the partnerships that you have. And this is created by those who are in the healthcare field. I thought it was very important to share with you, and I hope you'll enjoy reading these. There are phases that groups move through that the tool works through and helps you walk through when embracing a healthy partnership as an effective way of promoting and delivering services. So I'm going to review those briefly, and they're on the right-hand side of the slide. The first phase, meaning motivating change, and this includes introducing staff to the value and possibilities of partnership and addressing concerns that come with this change. The second phase is developing support for change, and this explores people's interest in preserving the status quo, because that's what we do as human beings sometimes. We get a little concerned about change. And it prepares a safe environment for test driving the concept of working in partnership, because sometimes we really need to kind of work on that human element of partnership. Then there's another phase called managing the transition, and this addresses coaching, training on policies and procedures, and also celebration of milestones reached. I think some of our panelists talked about that celebration and gratitude and appreciation of partners. And then a final phase called sustaining momentum, which I think is absolutely critical. It addresses the period as we move past that novelty stage of partnership, when we're first dating that person, that group, to become aware of the benefits of the partnership strategy. How do we go into the future? The partnership tool can support your Native Connections community system analysis tool, and people are going, I hope you're all using that CSA, because the partnership tool can help you explore a little deeper the nature of partnerships. For example, partners have different understandings and expectations of what their involvement means, and we know this. Like a joint event once a year, which is very informal, short-term, or a daily commitment to transporting youth, for example, to your program. So some partnerships are informal and some are formal and should be tracked in some kind of format. So the tool provides ideas for helping you work through where your partnership lands. Do you have a networking partnership, which is just a partnership that simply has an exchange of information? And that's what you do. You just have a networking partnership. Or is your partner a coordinating partner, which means that they'll have an exchange of information with you, and also they're altering their activities for a common purpose? Or do you go a little further down the partnership rabbit hole and have a cooperating partner, which means not only are they exchanging information with you, and not only are they altering some activities to work with you, but they might be sharing some resources? Or did you win the golden ticket and get a collaborating partner, which requires a partner to do all of these things plus give up a part of their turf to provide or help provide better service for the people that you serve, youth? So I hope you're getting partners that grow into becoming collaborating partners. Finally, I found this checklist as part of the partnership analysis tool, and I just love it. It's only 2 pages long. It's a 2-page checklist. It's free, and it covers the 7 areas that you see in the bullets to the right-hand side. The analysis will help you gather important feedback on the current status of the partnerships that you do have, and it offers a suggestion and suggested areas that need further improvement. So I'm going to leave you to downloading those, take a look at those tools. I think that they'll really help you. I hope you'll integrate those with the community system analysis tool that I hope you're still working on, growing and making bigger and better. And with that, I think we have a few minutes for final questions. Dave, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Okay, I think we've did a great job in partnering together on this webinar.
Be quick.
Yeah, so it's been really great dialogue with our panel and some questions from our audience. We invite anyone to provide any more comments or suggestions or thoughts before we close out our partnership webinar.
Here's to a healthy partnership to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Maureen used the partnership tool. That's great.
That's right. I think the Great Plains Tribal Health Board used the partner tool and shared that at one of the regional gatherings in Minneapolis. I think that was really awesome. You care to share any more on that, Maureen? And how that worked for you? Are you able to talk to us through audio? And Maureen is typing. Let me call in. Yeah, we got a few minutes. And thank you all for staying with us. It's been a great conversation and sharing on healthy partnerships. And it's our hope that you're able to take something away useful for you. And Brenna is, the ethicist is typing. Oh, lines are unmuted. So Maureen, I think the line is unmuted. Can you hear us? Can you? Brenna says it's important to note that partnerships working with new people make work exciting. Yeah, it does.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for that.
All right, Maureen is just about with us here on the call.
Also, Dave, I wanted to direct everybody to look to download in the files for download the Healthy Partnership booklet that was created this year. It's brand new, hot off the press, and the PowerPoint for this presentation is also there under files for download.
Yes.
This is Maureen. Now I'm unmuted. Sorry.
Hi, Maureen. Thanks for joining us through audio.
Sure. The tool we used was developed at the University of Colorado, and one of the things that's additional that it measures is the level of trust between partners. Really interesting. It also measures value and connectivity, so how reliable a partner is in support of the project, level of involvement, and it also measures the level of power or influence a partner in the group might have. So one of the things we found out in our measures was law enforcement does a lot of the responses to suicide, but yet they were not a strong partner in the community. So it's a really good tool. The only difference between this one and the one you just presented is you pay for this one. And when we started, it was very reasonably priced because it was a grant-funded project at the time. But the people who developed it branched off and developed their own sort of organization. It's still fairly reasonable, but I think the benefits of it, because you can develop visual networks to see who's really partnering with who and to reduce redundancy. Like there's some people you partner with, and it kind of shows you.
Maureen, you're breaking up just a little bit there.
Oh, but I sent you what what our report was, Dave. Maybe that's something we can share sometime.
It's okay to share that with folks on this call?
Not the data per se, but what we did with it, yeah. And I think we can ask the health board that question.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Very good.
I think
Thank
when you
you
have
for
those
that.
evaluation, that's something you can, at least some of it, you can talk about.
Sure. Okay. So it can be found online. And what is it called? The partnership tool?
Yes, I'm going to send the link on right now on the chat box.
Okay. There we go. So folks can click on that link, and we'll make sure we'll provide it. It'll be this webinar will be recorded, and everyone will get this, and so it'll be made available.
You know, Dave, I wish we had more time because I would love to hear from anyone who's had success bringing into partnership a law enforcement agency, because they are a little tricky to get into, but if anyone's got a real quick tip, that'd be great to hear.
Yeah, that's very true. And we have McKinsey that's typing into the chat box. Maybe she responds to that very particular question you just asked.
This is Sandra from Sacramento Native American Health Centers. Yes, it has been a challenge for us to partner with law enforcement as well as our juvenile justice system. It was one of the partners that we were having a challenge in networking with. But what we had done is we're lucky that we have a couple of different grants going, kind of doing the same work. So we were able to host an ICWA training where we were able to network with our court system to invite a lot of those people that are involved in those systems to come to the table. So we offered a free training. We were able to do that. And that actually was the first start of a conversation. And then from there, our director was able to network into some of their different committees and things that they offered. So again, taking the time to sit in the room with other people and doing that networking and finding those opportunities to partner really was the key on how to even start that partnership. So not even having anything formal, just kind of showing up to their events and starting to have that FaceTime and starting to say, hey, by the way, our project's here, this is what we do, and, the Native people are still here and this is a high need. And being that advocate in those meetings has really started a good partnership. So we just had we hold a multi-agency partner meeting once a quarter, and we actually had 6 or 7 people from our justice system attend, which was a really high for us. But it's taken 2 years from the onset of our project to be able to bring them to the table. So it is that patience and finding and sitting at the table oftentimes that starts those partnerships. So that's kind of what we have done. But again, we're in an urban setting and there's lots of players. So, but definitely having that face time in those meetings of like, hey, this project exists. Hey, we're here. Hey, Native people have concerns as well. Because oftentimes I've found in my work that system partners for us in an urban setting aren't even aware that Native people are even here, which was shocking for me through the work. But starting that advocacy and pushing my way at the table just to create awareness has been a labor of love within my work right now. So I think that's a good key to start, is sitting at the same table, pushing your way in. Unfortunately, sometimes that's how you have to do it.
Thank you, Sandra, for sharing that. Partnering can be really challenging. Mackenzie said, I think our situation is unique. We have a contract with the County Sheriff Department where we have officers on the reservations. They are really engaged in programming, open to community members to provide insight from their experience making emergency responses for the community. That is a unique situation, and thanks for sharing that, Mackenzie. And that's awesome that you're able to have that kind of relationship with them. Oh, sorry. There's more to it. They attend lots of events to make themselves accessible to the community, like the Pommel and the Chumash Culture Day. Awesome.
I'd like to offer a thanks and a supportive huzzah to Sandra for pushing herself out there. I think that's great, Sandra. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Well, Sarah, I'm looking at the clock here, and I think, having more of a dialogue around partnering with law enforcement, because I know that a lot of my tribes had faced some concerns in that area too, and working with law enforcement. But
something tells me, Dave, that that's an entire other webinar.
I was just going to say that. Yes. So with that, I think we've come to the end of our webinar. Before we close and go on with our wonderful day, just to mention the different, we have some upcoming webinars and events here listed before you. So a couple of webinars on digital storytelling is actually workshops, 1 and 2, and then we'll be rolling out an evaluation toolkit. They're in 3 units, 1, 2, and 3. And of course, you will be getting a notification regarding these webinars and events. So keep an eye on that. And once again, thank each and every one of you for joining us on this webinar. We appreciate you, and we appreciate the work you're doing in your communities. And just be sure to exercise some self-care as you're doing this work. Take some time out to take care of yourself. I know we always need to be reminded of that.
And thanks to all of our panelists.
Yes, absolutely.